welcome to Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. Happy Halloween! Nearly.
Nearly. It's a month.
It's the month of Halloween. I'm Ben Slinger, and with me as always is Trevor Scott. I didn't say that bit.
Yeah, you forgot about that part. Oh, hello, peoples.
I was trying to go straight into my Halloween thing. So, because yes, we're going to do something a little bit different. We are going to still do click pitch, but we're just going to try to kind of bring some
horror in there with a knife and just stab it in the back.
Yeah, we'll just slice each game open, shove some horror juice right in there.
Yeah.
Sort
and
back up,
then,
roughly.
Depending on how well we go, we may actually chuck that into the next episode as well. Like, you never know. Yeah. Just inject because it doesn't quite fit around the Halloween this year. It's not really close to either one day or the other.
Yeah, we're gonna have one come out
before it and one after it.
Right before or right after. So, let's jump in. Trevor, do you want to let our listening audience know what click pitch is, though?
Click pitch is a game, a mystical game, where we each have a random word generator in front of us, and on the count of 3, 2, 1, horror, or 3, 2, 1, we're going to click the refresh button, and we're going to get an adjective and a noun. We're going to take those words, we're going to throw them at each other and have a spooky theme of those games, and then when that game doesn't work, or when we don't want to monster mash those two together anymore, then we just throw the game away and we start all over again. 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Inconvenient steam.
Dumped thirst.
Stumped?
Dumped.
Oh, dumped thirst.
Yes. Thirst gives me
vampire vibes. Yeah, especially with dumped as well, because vampires are always very, passionate about their relationships with each other or with humans or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Inconvenient steam. Is that maybe what, like...
It's a steampunk vampire. I mean, obviously.
Oh, steampunk vampire. I haven't seen that before. Well, I guess there's maybe a bit of that in vampire. No, maybe not. Anyway. Okay. Steampunk vampire. I like that as a kicking off point.
Yeah, it's great.
This is like, what sort of steam-driven machinery and things would a vampire use? Are they using this in their hunting? Is this a world where like vampires are sort of the race that has taken over to a certain degree, and so they have, because of their technology, like they've become the more technologically advanced species, and so they have these big blimps and
they can come down and strike during the night and then sneak back up to their blimps again, and so you got those aerial strikes happening. Yeah, I like that. Now, are you just a regular old Joe whose family has been killed by vampires, and you're now like trying to take on the Van Helsing role of?
Yeah, I think there's a resistance, right? I think you're part of the human resistance against the vampire overlords, and yeah, I think. Do you call yourselves the Van Helsings? Is that too on the nose? Are you just like the VH Revolution or something?
Van Halen Revolution.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of like that. But this has to be dark. Like you want that whole thing of you're going down an alleyway in the middle of night, and you see like a jet of steam sort of at the end of the alleyway, and you see a figure just standing there, and it's like, oh my god, so you got to turn around and there's another jet of steam up the other end and like another figure.
Oh yeah, well I think they've got like machinery and stuff. Like I want these vampires to be technologically advanced, but in this very raw metal steam powered way that comes along with steampunk. So I think they've definitely got things like, they all wear backpacks that have these like essentially metal shields that can come out in case they're caught. Like in case they're caught somewhere in the sunshine, they can like deploy this and quickly, protect themselves. And some of them use like larger kind of mech suit kind of things to get around because they can, you know, they're just up higher, they're stronger, they can round people up. It's got all sorts of, you know, nets and grapples and stuff.
So I'm imagining that they've come up with technology that can actually suck the blood out of bodies to collect it, rather than going the old-fashioned way of, you know, biting into their necks and taking only a small amount and wasting the rest. They've worked out that they can actually suck all the blood out through these, like, 2 prongs that they put into the jugular that happen to just...
Oh, and I think they can, like...
suck all the blood
you're
out.
getting situations where you've got this... Yeah, you've got this vampire, this big hulking mech comes around the corner. People are running, screaming. Suddenly this thing's got like 4 grappling hook things that just fire out in all directions, hook onto people's necks, and are just like, they've all got tubes. It's just like sucking the blood up into the container on the back of this thing.
Are these mechs yellow, like a la Aliens? And you've got that kind of Sigourney Weaver fight against, like, mech on mech at the end, actually, where you've got, get away from her, you bitch. And it's like...
Get away from her, you Dracula.
I like the idea of, like, a big steampunk metal mech battle at the end.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm getting first-person shooter sort of vibes from this.
Yep.
Trying not to go too close to, like, Dishonored, which has its own steampunk thing, but obviously there are influences there. A bit of, obviously, like, the newer Wolfensteins and stuff have a bit of that steampunk sort of thing, but yeah, I think a lot of...
Are we going classic Doom style where there's individual levels and you're going through, like, a linear story? I think I kind of like that for this.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and again, similar to the Wolfenstein ones, a bit less like Dishonored, where you've often sort of got a bit of a hardball, you might go back to the same areas. I think, it's just like, okay, you're up to level 6, and it's like...
You're now in the blink.
Vampire
because you
Colosseum
stuck
or something, where they... Yeah, whatever.
I'm imagining now that there's, like, you sneak up onto the blimp and, like, as it was docked into like the Empire State Building or whatever the big building is here that has a blimp tether, and you and the other Van Helsings, you know, all sort of sneak aboard, and it's all about now, you know, sort of freeing the captives that are on board the blimp, draining their blood supply, basically.
Well, and I think so. The blimps, they fly in these blimps during the day, but they're generally, you know, protected on the inside from the sun with big, you know, whatever, like shutters and stuff that come down during the day. I love the idea, though, of... Or it might just be that the blimp itself is built in a way that it shades it well enough. But I love the idea of, like, kicking these vampires out the windows of this blimp, and as they hit the sunlight, they just, like... burst into flames and burn up as they're falling.
But now you've also got sunlight streaming into the room from where you just kicked open the window.
Yeah, potentially in some of those areas. But I like the idea also of, like, like they've all got these backpack things on that are going to protect them. So if you kick one of them out the window and they've got that backpack on, you see out the window as it, like, deploys before it hits the sun, and it's like, that guy survived.
But why would they have that on? You know, it's like a parachute. You don't have it on all the time. You've got to go put them on.
Some might. Some may, some might not. But I like the idea of also, you can disable that. Like, if you shoot it first, like if you come up behind them, you might do
disconnect the steam hoses.
Sneak attack, which, like, disconnects it first before you throw them out, and then you get that pleasure of seeing them burn up in the sun as you kick them out the window. Those sorts of nice little moments.
And I think we've got to go with, even though, you know, we can't really steal from the world of Buffy and Angel, but the idea that if you stake them through the heart, they do actually turn to dust. So that
I think that's a relatively so I think you then end up with your own very steampunkish, you know, stake crossbows and stuff with multiple, you know, it's got like a magazine of stakes that comes in the top and, like, fires them out, you know, different garlic bombs and things to
every now and
get
again
them out of the area.
You've got to sort of get some heat on that water to get that water boiling again, like, because obviously your steam power is generated through the fact that it's heated up water. You've basically you're just carrying around a big fucking coal furnace at all times. Well, I'm imagining that you're walking down and then there's a stiff breeze and it blows the pilot light out, and you've got to.
Well, I think often how you'd maybe do this is like that maybe like a weapon like that isn't specifically powered by steam. It's maybe more like hydraulic or something, that you've got a certain amount of steam that you've loaded in there.
Yeah.
And you find areas to refill that, essentially, like, for those sorts of things. But
a la your Back for Blood and that sort of stuff, in the lower difficulty levels, you don't have to worry about that too much. In the higher difficulty levels, it's more of a resource that you've got to be careful of.
Yeah. That's really cool. I love the idea of, I think the earlier levels are very much obviously down on the ground at the moment. The resistance is young. I think when you're starting off, coming up against one vampire should be fucking terrifying. Like, they're stronger than you. They've got this technology. You have a moment where one of your team members, or multiple of them, like, get killed and drained in front of you. Like, hit home that these things are fucking scary.
Okay, so can they turn anyone into a vampire? Or is that just these are a different race of beings sort of thing that they've come to Earth or they've escaped from the underworld, and they're just another evolutionary form of, like, they're bloodsuckers, they're super powerful, and they just
I think it would depend on the story and whether we wanted to bring that aspect of it, because where that becomes a benefit is like, someone who was previously in the Resistance and was close to you has been turned, and now that's obviously a big dramatic moment, and they're on the other side. You're gonna have to kill them or whatever.
Ooh, what if they were turned? You stab them and they don't turn to dust because they just had like veneers in, and they were actually
they were undercover. They were on a secret undercover mission for like the head of the Resistance, and yes. They don't turn to dust, but you have just stabbed them in the heart with a wooden stake, so you have to like carry them to safety.
Well, no, I think they're kind of fucked.
Well, probably, but
so what you do is you kick them out, and you just hope that the parachute like lands him in the right spot.
Or do you have an ending where like you've just been partially turned? And you're not happy with it, like it's one of these things where it's the most horrifying thing you can imagine, and so you like kill this person who you think is responsible for it, find out they were undercover, but then for you to survive, you have to drink their blood and kill them before they just bleed out. Just really twists and turns in there.
Yep. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
That was good though. I like that.
Farewell, judging.
Imprisoned police. So I think this is some sort of police officer who's put away.
Yep.
And
okay.
It's like horror, though. This is like... Yeah, this is creepy horror in a prison.
So where I'm getting it is that you're maybe a prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
In this thing, you've been put away for, like, doing something improper in your job, whether you're a police person or whatever.
Okay.
And the judge has basically giving you an option of going to federal prison, where you're mostly going to be beaten up by all the other convicts because you're a police officer, or you get to go to this one island and you have a chance to escape.
Oh, okay.
And it becomes that sort of thing of the judge and his friends are hunting
right
convicts. I know there's just something about farewell, and it just sort of shouts. The judge is like, "Well, I could do this for you, and you could make it out."
A little bit of like Squid Game vibes.
Haven't seen it yet.
Ah.
Planning on watching it, but...
Yeah, you should watch it. We could go that way. In that case, though, let's... Well, because I was thinking that a prison is ripe for more, like, creeping horror. That you could definitely, like, play with expectations and... tension in like a rundown prison sort of thing.
Everything happens the same, where the judge goes, you can either go into normal prison, or you could go into this creepy solitary prison that we've got in the middle of the bay, a la Alcatraz, but it's not Alcatraz.
So what it is this judge goes, well, I can send you to regular prison, or you can spend one night in the creepy mansion. If you survive, I will let you go.
Yeah. I like the idea that your character goes, yeah, fuck it, let's do that. One night? How hard is that going to be? And it turns out they send you to Iceland, where one night is 6 months.
I don't know that we need to play with that quite to that degree. Okay, I love this ridiculous setup of someone having to... the reason for the one night in the creepy mansion is... because otherwise you go to prison, but for some reason I'm a fucked up judge and this is my ruling.
Yeah.
I don't really want a police officer as the main character because...
Yeah, fuck
the police. So maybe we have a crooked... Maybe we have a... I'd rather have a dentist. Maybe we have...
It's a dentist.
So the dentist has finally been caught for his crimes.
Yes. Of hurting people and getting extreme pleasure out of it.
Yeah.
The last person that he hurt was the judge.
Judge is one of his patients. Okay. And so is the police officer who brought you in. That's where we bring police in, and he's like a real asshole as well, and just like beating up on you. Okay, so what happens then when you get to this island?
Okay, so have you seen like the latest movie adaptation of House on Haunted Hill?
The one from like 20 years ago?
A while ago. Yeah. With Jeffrey
Catherine
Rush
Zeta-Jones.
Yeah.
I don't really remember it, but okay.
What they sort of set up is, you know, kind of like in the creepy mansion, they had like some set up things of, you know, spooky sounds and all this sort of stuff, but it turns out that there was actually real shit going on there. Right.
I
so kind of like the idea of... That's what they've kind of set up.
Double bluff sort of thing. Yeah.
They have actually set up that kind of thing. So
basically this is the corrupt judicial system playing with prisoners and saying like, oh yeah, I bet that I can make this guy just kill himself by sending him and setting up this creepy mansion.
And it's literally set, you know, on an island. Because I love that idea of literally there's no escape. The only way you get brought to the island on a boat and they go away. There's no other way off this island. And then you've got to deal with this. And the thing is, you see cameras everywhere. So you know that they're filming this and they're probably you know, putting this out on cable TV or whatever, and it's like the newest reality game. Or it's just their
their sick, twisted TV station that they share amongst the 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
What is the creepy force that is
actually present on this island?
Yeah.
Is it just like the spirits?
Is it old religious? Is it
the spirits of all the previous people they've sent here? Finally amassing enough power that they can fight back and they're just angry at everyone? Yeah.
Is it like a Cthulhu-esque entity of, you know, there's like an old ritual sacrifice room that as you go through this sort of thing, you happen to mistakenly, you know, follow the instructions that they left you, that you had to perform this ritual, but it actually was a real ritual that unleashes, you know, otherworldly terror on this island, basically.
I like the idea that's a bit of an accident. I mean, that is in that way, but that, yes, something happens that they've set up. I don't know if it's specifically that it has to be a ritual that actually exists, but it's something like they've set something up which makes you bleed, but the place that they've done this means that, like, your blood, drips onto this particular, sigil on the ground and sets something off.
I think you enter into this room, you walk across the pentagram, and you see a single drop. Just drop, and just before it hits the pentagram, it flashes to another scene where your ancestors were the ones to like lock this evil away.
Well, I think that's what, maybe you do that in the reveal. I think though that as you're playing through this, like, basically something plays out in this room. It's this fucking creepy room in this house that, there's like pentagram on the ground, there's like candles and shit everywhere. They've set this up, like, they have made you come here because it's a fucking creepy area. But then they just have, like, I don't know, we shoot with a crossbow out of the wall, like something dumb. And just as sort of a set piece, essentially, you have this moment where it's like, oh fuck, they shot me, I'm bleeding everywhere, like blood goes everywhere. You find you make your way upstairs to the kitchen and you bandage yourself up, and that's sort of early on in the piece. And and then creepy shit continues to happen, except it's now starting to escalate, and now the edges between what is obviously them doing stupid horror shit and what is actually some unearthly force doing things, those lines start to blur. And then, yes, eventually, as you sort of find stuff out and research things, you realize, oh, it's when my blood spilled.
When my blood went right next to that really creepy book on the altar and that had the pentagram underneath. Like, we probably shouldn't have done that.
And I wonder if, like, because they've perhaps set up like tunnels and stuff underneath so they can come in and like fuck with you and do things.
Oh yeah, there's a bunker on this island that when you finally get in, you see that like they've got all these security cameras and a wall full of monitors and all this sort of setup. But the thing is, all you see that remains of the people that were on this island is just bloodstains everywhere. Like, it's like the whole room is
I think definitely once
given
you
a
get
fresh
there,
coat
it's
of
just like,
blood.
I think definitely once you get to that bunker, they're all gone. I do like the idea, though, of the way you find out about that bunker, perhaps, is that essentially when whatever was starting to go down in that bunker, like, one person escapes. So you find someone on this island, you're like, how the fuck did they get here? They're, like, freaking out.
Just before their head explodes and
they do some exposition. Yeah, they do some exposition, tell you a bit, about what the actual deal is and that there's a bunker, and then, yes, they just fucking explode.
And on their body, you find a key. And you go unlock the thing. I think it's very much your Resident Evil sort of tank, not old tank controls, but the later ones.
Fixed camera.
Not fixed camera, but no, the later ones. Like you're going through and you're sort of almost Metroidvania like. You're able to unlock certain parts as you go through. So there's set pieces that you're going towards. I like the idea of not so much a combat-based RE8 or whatever, but more that creepy forebodingness of, those like creepy sections of
something.
Yeah, not just Alone in the Dark, but Resident Evil 7 when you're like creeping and you're hearing something off in the distance, and it's that sense of foreboding that to me makes it more scary. Throwing enemies at you. Like, I can deal with that.
No, I don't even know. I don't even know how you do the combat and still really keep it kind of creepy enough, because I feel like once you're actually physically killing things,
then you feel kind of powerful.
You feel too powerful almost, yeah. So yeah, I think it's more of a sort of third-person adventure sort of thing with, yes, a lot of scares. Silent Hill... Does that have a lot of... It
does still have combat, yeah.
You still combat and stuff, isn't it? Yeah. But anyway, it does give me Silent Hill-ish sort of vibes as well. But I definitely like that addition of those lines blurring between this ridiculous setup from these fucking rich assholes and them getting their comeuppance by unleashing an actual evil. And you're safe because it was your blood that summoned it.
Yes. how safe is your sanity sort of thing, like kind of going along with that sanity's requiem or whatever, eternal darkness, sanity's requiem, of which you can have, sanity points that are actually sort of, and it's almost that's what you're using to determine, whereabouts or what type of ending you're going to get, depending on how well you chose your options during the game.
I do like that as more of an overall meter across the game rather than a moment by moment sort of thing. So you don't necessarily know that like any particular thing you do is going to, reduce your sanity by 3 points or something, because it's
a hidden metric that sits in the background that determines how you get out of the game. Like you either survive and you're stronger for it, and you're off the island, and then whatever happens there, whether you are actually free to go or whether that was just all bullshit and the thing that you've gone through is a load of crap.
Yeah. Just get arrested again.
Or whether you actually you start to imagine that things are happening around everywhere because you didn't actually it's damaged your mind too much.
You didn't handle it well enough. Yeah. Yeah, that could be interesting. I think you just want to make sure that you, as you play the game and make some of these choices, obviously you don't want just the direct, I did this and my sanity went down, but that the logical story thing of that choice, of making a particular choice or of just not succeeding at something well enough, is like, now maybe your character is less sure about things, like just in the dialogue and stuff, like in the behavior of the character as well. If that can shift up a bit as the game goes along, then it makes so that you're not just like, I got my character all the way to the end and all of a sudden they're a gibbering mess of nerves because there were those 3 things that I didn't do well early in the game and it got my meter down all the way.
Yeah, but I think that by making decisions right later on in the game and that sort of stuff can bring it back up.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you could do all the good things right at the very start, and the last 15 things bring your meter down quite considerably, and you didn't get anything to bring your sanity back up.
And it could also be interesting just to link it into the knowledge that you find, and again, not in just a gamey way necessarily of, you collected the 7 notes that told you what was going on, but hopefully you can find a better way to do it of that. But I think you can keep control of your mind if you understand more why these things are happening or what this force is, and that might come about through making certain choices where you get explained some of that stuff or find certain things that teach you about it, or even communicate directly with the force itself. And so it's here are its intentions, it's not as unknowable.
Yes. But speaking and conversing with this thing could also damage your sanity in the fact of...
I think maybe it's very dangerous I think that, if you choose to attempt to communicate with it, then it can either bolster your sanity quite well so that maybe it falls less during the rest of the game, or yes, it can just drop it completely right
a
now
multiplier on, basically.
Yeah, or something like it just makes a big change because it's just this, you fail very badly at it. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. 3, 2, 1, stab. Identical repair.
Compelled partner.
Oh, okay. I think this is maybe less traditional horror and a bit more of maybe a little bit of body horror, or just... I'm thinking it's sort of your partner has been replaced by something.
Ooh. Yes, I do like a good body swap, body horror sort of game.
Identical repair kind of makes me feel like it's some sort of
a pod person,
android or something. Well, the repair makes me think something mechanical. So I don't know if someone's creating perfect android replicas of people and replacing them in some way that are so indistinguishable from the real thing, but just with these weird...
Because they don't actually know.
Off parts. Yeah, well, that's
okay. the only way to tell is, for some reason, this inventor could never quite get the toes right.
The toes?
There's just something about the toes that they just could never get them right. And if you ever look at the toes, they basically kind of like the witches where they just finish in a stump. That's exactly what happens. Or it's just like the toes are just a block.
It's like artists who never learned to draw feet properly.
Yeah. There's just something about that you know, gives like your partner's all of a sudden not wearing open-toed shoes, and it's like, hang on.
Or the creator is so bad at creating toes that they just create the foot and shoe as a single piece, and so they just can't take their shoes off. It's like, why are you wearing your shoes in the house all the time? Oh, I don't know. I just my feet have been, a bit sensitive lately.
It's like, why'd you come to bed wearing your work boots?
Why haven't you
Don't
changed
mention
shoes
it again
since that day you mysteriously disappeared for 3 hours?
I advise you to not talk about this any longer.
Does not compute. It's just really obvious, but no one picks up on it. They're like perfectly humanoid in every other way, but when you try to talk to them, they're just like, syntax error.
Query. Where are you going? Statement. I am not an android. Obvious lie.
I don't know if it's as obvious even as the toes. I feel like it needs to be... I think there is something. You do find out a way for which you can determine if someone's an android, but I want... The horror comes...
Do you know which one of my toes is longer? My second toe or my big toe? Have you ever paid that much attention to my toes?
Are you specifically asking me, or is
I'm
this
asking you, Benjamin James Slinger.
No, I've not paid attention to your toes. I'm going to say your second toe is
exactly.
longer.
So you would not know if your partner was an android because you never focused on their feet before.
Well, I'd know if they ended in a stump.
How? They've got shoes on.
Well, but I don't think we should... I don't think that we should actually do the shoe thing.
Aww.
My point was that the horror comes from that, like, slow realization or that slow awareness that something is off, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we want to build off at the start. Whether I don't think you obviously even know at that point that there's a thing with androids or whatever, like, that comes out later. The first thing is... something's off about your partner.
Okay.
Now coming into a game initially, I don't know how you do that since you don't necessarily have the history.
I think what you can do is, like, very early on, not necessarily doing a full-on LA noir of having, like, cases and all that sort of stuff, but there's, like, you at least have one or two scenes with your partner at the start where they have an obvious sort of trauma in their past in which any time that they're sort of having to draw their gun, they're sort of hesitant to do that.
Your partner does?
Your partner does. And
are you talking like police partner? I'm talking like romantic partner.
Okay.
But
I was thinking
that was where
partner,
I was going.
But, or at least, some sort of detective sort of thing.
Right. We could do that too.
I think that's why we kind of got off on the wrong foot of...
The wrong foot?
The wrong foot, yeah. Because I was thinking, how well do you know
do you know the toes of your business partner?
I should have realised when you said going to bed with them and that you were only thinking romantic partner. But then again, this could be like...
they could be a very close
Castle and Kate Beckett sort of situation where they do go to bed with each other, but they also happen to be in a relationship together.
Yes. It could be both. Definitely from the horror point of view, I was thinking like a romantic partner, like your spouse, essentially, has been replaced, and you don't immediately realize, like, that's why it's scary. It's that something is off, but you can't quite put your finger on it initially, and eventually you are investigating.
Do you wake up in the middle of the night and you see the kitchen light on, and you go out there, and you see them literally just like almost just got their hand over the gas fire with a can of baked beans, and they're just holding on to it. But then you wake up and you never came back from there, so you don't know whether it's a dream that you saw, and it's like you just see some creepy things like that. Like they don't feel pain.
Well, or also like maybe your spouse is already prone to sleepwalking and doing weird shit in their sleep, but it starts escalating further, and so you're not, you don't realize right away that they're not actually them. It's just, this problem with their sleepwalking is really getting bad. But, as you talk to other people about it, as you talk to the doctor about it, you realize that things have been happening to other people in the town too. Maybe more and more people are sleepwalking. Like maybe there's something about, or just, because they're androids, they don't actually need sleep. And so they're just up and about more or something.
Question. Do you end up fucking your partner when they're an android?
Maybe that's how you figure it out, find out.
You find out. Because they're much better lover, or...
no, because there's just lubricant everywhere, but like oil.
Oil lubricant, not human lubricant.
Yeah, it just sort of spews out everywhere at the point of climax, and really makes it obvious.
Yeah, but they keep on asking for the light off.
Yeah, and they
say, let's be a bit kinky, let's do it with the light off.
Let's do it with the light off, and I'm going to do all the washing before we turn the lights back on, just because I love you so much.
That seems normal. I'm getting some. Okay, so how creepy does this actually get? Do you is it kind of like a Stepford Wives sort of situation? That
there's definitely a Stepford Wives vibe to it, although not to that same degree of like personality changing so much, I think. But more that, yes, like people in this town are being replaced.
Ooh, is this over the entire town? And it's sort of like everyone's got like the single doctor. There's a single dentist. There's a the single supermarket. The single chemist. The singular sheriff and receptionist. Like it's a very small town, and you can go around anywhere that you like within the town to sort of...
Yeah. Well, and I like this idea then of you can have evidence leading you to particular ways. It's like, we know that these three people have been replaced, and they were all arrested together and put into like the drunk tank, 2 weeks ago or whatever. So it's like, maybe it's the cops. Maybe there's something there. And you can be following that up, and then you realize through whatever means it is... and it's not actually sex, obviously, that we determined that you can start testing people for this. It's like, oh, wait, the cop, like the sheriff who I was suspecting has been replaced. Fuck, okay, that's not right. Okay, add that to the evidence.
Yeah, so you find out that little Susie was replaced just after she saw the dentist.
Yeah.
But you actually find out that the dentist was one of the first people.
Yeah, yeah. And that they actually, nobody remembers when he wasn't an android.
Yeah, it turns out that...
It's actually the dental hygienist, because we're twisting it this time. Everyone expects us at Bitstorm Games to make the villain the dentist. But it's...
Well, guess what?
It's the dental hygienist.
It's
little Susie.
Your partner is literally the dentist.
Oh, we're humanizing the dentist. And
we're
turning
humanizing...
him into an android,
We're switching it up for this horror game extravaganza.
That's horrific. A dentist that's friendly? That's horrific.
Yes. So that's where, like, you're playing, like, a Bitstorm Games game, and it's like the dentist...
It's like the meta horror of this game. It's just unsettling.
Yeah, the dentist kind of feels, like, well-rounded as an individual. And
not evil in the slightest. doesn't enjoy giving pain to people.
And that's kind of off-putting. It's like, oh, I'm sorry I caused you some pain then. And it's like, then you know, what do you do as your day job? Because obviously you've moved to this small little gated community.
Yeah.
A la your Truman Show or whatever.
Is this one of these?
Everyone
is this
knows
one of
everybody.
these classic, like you're a writer or something, or you're like a
an Alan Wake sort of thing? Kind of feels like it could be good, and you know, maybe you're a sci-fi writer whose latest story was about like androids that sort of get, you know, take over.
Or yes, I think you could take over a town. I do like the idea of them being a sci-fi writer, particularly because the rest of the town kind of writes them off as like. You write sci-fi like you're coming up with these crazy ideas all the time. No one's going to believe you that people are being replaced with androids. Who is actually doing this then?
Ooh, good question. Is it the mayor?
Well, maybe before we determine who it is, what would be the motive? What's their motive for it? Whoever's doing it. Is this because is this in that sort of politician way? Are they trying to make they're sick of people doing things that, you know, are against their best interests, and they want a more malleable voting bloc?
Yeah, basically.
So they just end up ruling over a town of androids.
Okay. In a twist, kind of. I'm taking this from the classic Bruce Willis film Surrogates, where there are actually people controlling these androids. I think underneath, like, City Hall, you actually have pods where everyone have sort of been put into them, and the reason why the personalities the same is because their brains are literally hooked up.
Right. It's just like, that there's sometimes, you know, it's not perfect, or they get out of Wi-Fi range.
Yeah, or you get that classic thing of, you know, you're sort of not able to get all the instructions, so you go on the default programming just because there was some interference, because you shouldn't have walked into that Faraday cage. Like,
yeah, I mean, every good sci-fi writer writes in a Faraday cage to avoid interruptions and distractions.
It's to avoid all interruptions. You know, you put. I'm just imagining you get into your house and you put your phone in a Faraday cage, which goes inside a bigger Faraday cage that you sit in.
So I just love the idea of that default programming. So like the way you figure this out is you have people walk into the Faraday cage, and they walk in, and then they just do that video game thing of they just keep walking, and then they hit the wall, and they're just walking on place as they hit the wall. Like basically all instructions have stopped, and all they've got is walk forward.
Yeah, but I think there's some instructions that take over that sort of, you know, emulate, but you can. That's where the query sort of stuff comes.
No, I do like that idea though, actually, of maybe the way that you do eventually test this you've got some sort of Wi-Fi jammer, or you've got some sort of something where now if you ask them questions that this person should know, they're not going to know the answer. Like they can't answer the way that person would. And so part of your investigation and stuff is like, finding out what is the question for this person that I can do, and then like jamming signals and asking them the right questions. That could be a real cool, like, finding the evidence and using it sort of mechanic.
Yeah. I do really like the idea that the mayor's whole family, like little Susie included, because I'm picturing that little Susie is actually the mayor's daughter. She's actually 37, but they still call her Little Susie. Okay, so Little Susie, the beautiful wife, and the mayor, like, I'm picturing kind of like a Colonel Sanders sort of character, like, you know, southern gentleman who's, you know, kind of wearing one of those,
like a bit of foghorn leghorn.
Yeah, it got that sort of
southern drawl.
Drawl.
Yeah, I can see that.
So who's the mastermind behind the whole thing? Is it like is any of the family actually converted, or was little Susie actually converted because they had an accident? And
so I guess I feel like we still haven't figured out the motive, because if they're being controlled essentially from these pods, is it that then like they need the pods to control them to make them realistic, but then he's able, or whoever's doing it is able to like insert their own influences in there? And, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's...
Yeah, basically, the minds are there to answer the questions and to...
So sort of just it's a very advanced, complicated form of brainwashing, or of mind control, essentially, of like, you know, I'm going to send out the program to all the pods of, you know, if someone asks you this, you will answer like this, but otherwise all of your normal, you know, brain programming is in place.
If they ask you into a Faraday cage, you know, say, oh no, I left the iron on, and
I like that idea. I like figuring out some of the technological stuff where, like, updates have to be sent out over the Wi-Fi, and so yes, like one of you at some point you have to get, you know, your spouse into the Faraday cage before the like mind wiping update that he's going to send out happens, you know, to save them or something. And then you have this big end scene where all of these androids have turned into zombie attacking zombies, basically. Like he's killed off all the people in the pods, or something like that. I guess I don't know what the reason necessarily would be. I guess it could be like, oh, he knows you're onto him. He's going to send out essentially a disconnect function that's instead of them being connected up to the pods back in the you know, cave or whatever, they're just going to turn into attacking zombies that are under his control. But you still need information from your spouse who is down there and has found a way to like feed information to you or something. That could be really cool. And then, this big end scene of you
really humanizing that dentist. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You want to save this dentist. You love this dentist. It's the scariest game we've ever made.
Extremely scary. 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, what the fuck?
Rival digest.
Vanished reporter.
We're getting really good words for horror stuff, I feel like, and just really matching ones. Is this some sort of... I don't know if I want to go cannibalism.
No, I'm thinking big
creature,
like underground monster sort of thing. A reporter was investigating into this. This time it's your brother who was investigating. He's the reporter, and the last thing that you got was like a message on your machine saying, if you don't hear back from me, I went down to, and then it's garbled text. I'm investigating, you know, sightings of a huge monster. Make sure that you go down to my office and clean out the files before.
All right. I like this idea. Rather than like pretty much all the games we made, except for maybe our Vampire FPS one at the beginning, have just been very narrative investigation story based.
Narrative ones, yeah.
I want to bring some more mechanics into this one. I like the idea of some sort of underground monster. I think it's in sort of somewhat of a foreign place, like that they've gone over to the jungles of something or the deserts of something or whatever, right? Or some town that, you know, there's some small, you know, town in some country where everyone's disappeared and there's mysterious holes in the ground. But that the mechanics of this come around how you protect yourself from this thing and how... Because I still want it to be horror. Like, I don't want it to just be, like you're shooting, you know, creatures coming out of the ground as they're swarming you or whatever. I want this to more be about where are they going to come up? How can I run from it? Like, how can I protect myself from it as it comes up? And so a bit more, maybe you've got tools. Maybe you find ways to, like, use vibrations and sound to, like, lure it. And so you've got some level of control over, it's going to come over there, but that means I need to get somewhere, off the ground.
Is this a giant sandworm?
Something like that, yeah, or some sort of...
I like the idea of it set in the desert, set in like a ghost town. Well, what is now being seen as a ghost town kind of feels like an old cowboy sort of...
It's a very Tremors-like.
Yeah, very Tremors-like. I'm picturing, sort of either Outback Australia, because that could be kind of cool. And it's just this... You get into the town, you find where your brother was staying. It's this small little, corner hotel.
Yeah.
And you find, some information, and written on the walls is, don't step on the sand, or something along those lines, or if this building's are shaken,
your bones will be breaking. I don't know.
I'm thinking of some sort of rhyme of if
like he's taking the time.
if this building's a rockin', then don't bother knocking, or something along those lines. Something that is very much a double entendre.
Yes, okay.
I'm not smart enough to think of it right now.
So I'm trying to think of, because you must have walked on the sand to get here is the thing. So we need to come up with a way that it's at certain, it's going to come back at a certain time, or it's moved on. And
it's basically. It wanted a new food source. It was happy to let you in, and now it's just playing with its food.
Okay, so there's a bit of intelligence.
It's not going to let you leave. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And it's all about, your brother knew this. He knew that...
I do like the idea of you being essentially trapped in this hotel. And, of course, that we're talking essentially like a pub hotel. I guess it's not a huge building. Yeah. But, enough room to have a good area to explore, and you can go out onto balconies and you might see disturbances out there on the sand. Maybe you see, you've been there a couple of days and you see a fucking car drive into town, and all you can do is just watch as this car drives through
town. They're allowed in, but as they go to drive out, just chews up the entire thing.
You essentially start getting a view of this thing. You start figuring out what it is based on just what you're observing.
Do you think that in the basement, which doesn't have a sealed floor, because I like the idea of there's no, the foundations of this thing, someone's dug out a basement somewhat.
Ooh, I like...
And you have a baby one that sort of comes out which can't quite get
What I was thinking with that is... that the way you finally kind of end this is that you do find a way to sort of lure it and to distract it from yourself, and you essentially have it come up through the basement, and the final scene is you're driving away and you see in the rear vision mirror this giant fucking worm just demolish the hotel, just come up and straight through it, just debris everywhere. This building you've just spent the whole game in, and this fucking giant thing. The first time you've seen it this big, I don't know, you've seen it, obviously.
You've only seen the head of it come out. You haven't seen the rest of the body come out, and who knows how long this thing actually is. Yeah.
You've got an idea of the size, but it never knew it was this big, and it's just this huge thing, and then you just drive off. You get onto the paved road of the highway. It's okay, I'm safe.
Yeah, I really like that. There's just I am getting a bit of Dead Static Drive feel about it.
Oh, interesting. I was actually picturing first person, just because.
Oh, I'm just thinking, the desert town. And that sort of stuff.
I could see that for sure.
That's where I'm getting the feel from.
I think the first person for me comes from this hotel has to start feeling claustrophobic because you can't leave it. I like the idea of, initially the player's probably going to try to go on the sand and see what happens, and like, as soon as you're on the sand for a few seconds, you start feeling rumbling. You're seeing, like, the dust and the stones start moving, and if you don't get back into that building, like, you're dead. But building that tension of it and being like, oh, shit, you know, because maybe they'll want to test it. It's like, oh, maybe it's not going to get me fast enough. You know, I can run over to that other building or run over to the car or whatever. But, you know, of course, no.
Yeah, I really like the idea that there's not that much asphalt or anything like that. Like, nothing paved. It's all, like, dirt roads, like, that go right up to the edge of, you know, the hotel and that sort of stuff. So, in order to get out there, I think at one stage you can sort of pick up, magazines from the hotel lobby, and you can throw them down on the ground and make, like, stepping stones to... Do
you think that's enough? Is it literally just your feet touching the ground that is bringing you here?
I think it's the fact that, like, there's certain vibrations or something that when you're actually touching the ground, it has, like, some sort of connection into it. It's where there's, you know, some sort of something in between, or maybe it has to be,
I feel like it needs to be more about, like, how fast you're moving, or
roof tiles.
Well, again, I feel like, or maybe it's that it can, like, smell you through the ground or something. Like, it knows you're there even if you're not moving. But yeah, I don't know. You don't want to give. I don't think you want to give the player too much hope or ability that they can get out of here. Maybe you can have them, like, if they can pick stuff up and move them, they can, like, throw a bed out and see if they can get onto the bed and if they die or not. But
well, the reason why I thought magazines is because you can have limited number of those, and it's like, yep, you made it to
right.
You made it to this building. Now you've got a way that you can go between these two buildings that's safe.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like you don't need other buildings, though. I feel like there's enough in this hotel that you can explore, and, like, you can have locked doors that, as you know, find your way around, you eventually end up unlocking to, you know, almost in a Gone Home kind of way, where you're, you know, figuring this stuff out and going through, but with this tension of, you know, these events that are happening and the glimpses you see of this creature as you're playing. Yeah. All right.
That does bring us to the end.
That was good. I hope
of part one of our horror
series for Halloween,
because we've decided that we are going to do a second one of these.
Yeah, we'll do this again next week. It'll come out the day after Halloween, so you probably have got all your scares out, but, you know, just to keep it moving. If you want to find us online and have a look at some of our less scary episodes, go to podchaser.com/bitstorm. And you can find all of our episodes there. Shoot us a review or a rating. Let us know what you thought.
Mm-hmm. If you like the song that you hear at the beginning and end, you can find it by searching for Kuridos Bandcamp on Google, and you'll find our album Containment Failure, and this was the song Matt Defines. So, the last song on the album.
That's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And, Trevor, can you just come into this Faraday cage? Thanks.
Does not compute.